has had a dual vocation for the past 30 years. He is an attorney concentrating his practice in the area of construction litigation. At the same time, oh my goodness, we need to talk about my vents. Just kidding. At the same time, he has had an active photography business, photographing weddings, bar mitzvahs, baptisms, and other family and corporate events. He has been a Canon shooter for most of his career. In the early film era, using an Argus C3 camera, he began taking photographs of auto races at Marlboro Raceway in Maryland. In the mid to late 80s and early 90s, he photographed for the Victorian Lyric Opera Company, shooting their actors' portraits and documenting their Gilbert and Sullivan operettas. How fun is that? Because of his construction litigation experiences, he has had the opportunity to photograph architectural interiors and exteriors for numerous architectural and engineering firms. He has photographed fashion catalogs and has worked on numerous projects with a variety of graphic designers. Mr. Hoffman has been an active member of the North Bethesda. Thank you. Camera Club for 30 years. He is a Maryland Photographic Alliance certified judge. He teaches photography to developmentally challenged individuals and teaches courses on portraiture and the equipment used to create artificial light. Most recently, for the past 10 years, he has partnered with his favorite photography partner, Roy Sewall, to take on the daunting challenge of shooting every architectural structure on the 6.5 mile 16th Street in the District of Columbia from the Silver Spring, Maryland line to Lafayette Park in front of the White House. Currently, he and Mr. Sewall just completed an agreement with the DC History Center, formerly the Historical Society of Washington, DC, to donate their collection of several thousand images to them. Mr. Hoffman's current project is photographing all the fire stations in the District of Columbia and also photographing old historic buildings that were constructed in the early 1900s. So if you can all give Joel a hello and welcome, Joel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me share my screen.
So before we start, can I make a few comments?
Sure.
Okay, so first and foremost, I'll tell you a little bit about my style of judging, but before I do that, how many members do you all have in your group?
About 100 registered members, but we usually get 30 to 35 at these meetings.
Okay, because I can tell you that tonight there are going to be some very disappointed people, and it's your fault, not mine. And the reason is the photography was for the most part outstanding. And, you know, you can only give 5 awards and 5 honorables. I could give 15 or 20, but unfortunately, some very, very good photographs are definitely going to be left on the wayside. So the good thing is I live in Maryland. You can't take the air out of my tires. You know, you guys can be angry, but that's going to be too bad. Okay, having given you a little bit of humor, let me just tell you a little bit about my style of judging. I look at 4 basic things right away, and that is the composition, the color, and if it's black and white, obviously the monochrome blacks and whites. We look at the subject matter, and I missed one, but that's okay, I'll pick it up. So I'll be looking at those things right away. I look at the corner of your images very carefully, and then I start looking at what makes the photograph not what we want it to be. And those are all the detractors, and I'll try and point those out as we go through tonight, if that's what we'll be doing, so that you can either go back to your images and see if you can correct them. Some of them are very minor, some of them are a little more difficult to fix, but it is hopefully a learning experience. At the end, I'll be glad to answer any questions. I have a few questions of some of the images that I did see tonight, so I'd really like to know whether or not it was a photograph actually in one case. But I'm ready to go if you are at this point, Sean. And I don't know how you're going to do this because you never got to me.
I'll be sharing the images on my screen. They should be, except for the ones you've chosen for placing and honorable mention, they should be in the same order that they were on the site I gave you. So if
Okay,
you have written notes with image numbers, it should be easy. The images will also in the upper left-hand corner will have the image number that matched the image number from the site.
okay.
So you used to be I just put them in random and judges found it difficult to match up their notes.
Well,
So
I pretty much, I mean, I looked at them, I saw them all last night for the first time, and I pretty much know which ones are there and what the issues are going to be, but I do have some notes if I need them.
okay, well, let me share my screen. And you can see that?
By the way, I was in your neck of the woods in October. We went to Storm King and Dia Beacon and to a wonderful Italian museum. So you guys live in a great area, but I don't want to be there in the winter.
No, you don't want to be here. It's cold. So anyway, we're going to start with the general category. There's 38 images. We have 5 places and 5 honorable mentions. And we'll just move right into it. First up, Vermilion Reflections, Neil Shapiro.
Okay, so this is one, as I said, that if I could put more than 10 in, this would definitely be in. It's a beautiful exhibit of a landscape. I really like the color. I like the sharpness. I think the reflections and the fog are great. The one area that I had, and I'm going to try, see if I can get my, give me 1 second. I'll see if I can find it. Can you all see my?
No, I haven't shared that. Hold on.
Okay. I was looking. I don't see the annotator. So okay, I'll do it on the left hand side. The one detractor that I saw in this was the area in the almost the foreground where it looks like there are either some growth. I don't know whether there were weeds or whatever, but I would have liked to seen them removed because the rest of the image is so pristine and so well developed. So that was really my only major comment. The color is beautiful, the subject matter is beautiful, the composition is great. So I only for that one little thing that I take that one out.
Next up is Citrus and Lace, Elena Kesey.
Okay, this was another lovely image. I don't know that I would eat that fruit, but I didn't find the fruit to be particularly pretty. It looks like it's been either dried out. So I wasn't really happy with the subject that was being portrayed. There is one issue. This looks like it was supposed to be completely centered. And if you look at the lowest slice of lemon, if that had been on the centerpiece, you would have had an equal distance around the plate all the way around. So that was sort of disconcerting to me. I don't know whether the photographer intended to leave that as a piece that was not of the same distance, but between the fruit not being particularly pretty and that little distance on that lower piece of fruit, I took that one out.
Okay, next up is Walking the Dogs, Alan Wiggins.
And this is a great photograph. I really enjoyed this. It's funny. It's got a lot of humor. I think the photographer did a great job of getting low, getting down to the dog's level, as opposed to standing up and being where the people are. I looked at each of the dogs. It's clear that this was not a training session, because if you look at all the dogs, I mean, they are really straining on their leashes and everybody is having a tough time. It's a cute picture. It wasn't really strong enough to stay in with the some of the other competition. The pole in the back, I guess it's a light pole back there, was distracting to me. But it's a cute image, but it's not strong enough to stay in. So I took that one out.
Okay, next up is Need a Hat, Bill Lanahan.
This was a close call. This was one of those that if I could put more in, this would definitely be in. I love the lighting. I like the placement of the hats, the up and down on the different shelves. It probably is in a store. The lighting is great. The color is great. Subject matter is really interesting. The two detractors that I saw was in the upper left-hand corner. It looks like you have a pan of some kind. It doesn't look like that's a hat. I'm pretty sure it's not. It might, if it is, it's distracting. And in the lower left-hand corner, the little sliver in that triangle of red at the bottom is distracting. I really think that photographers should really pay attention to the corners, and particularly those little triangles that really don't have anything to do with the photograph itself. So I took that one out, but that's easily correctable. And I would try and clone out that upper left if you could.
Okay, next up is Iris, Claudia Jakubowski.
This is another one. This absolutely could be a winner. This is a lovely iris. It's well shaped. The subject is really nice. You've got a great background. I like the water droplets add some drama to the flower. You can see the stem all the way through. The lighting is great on it. I had to make some choices, and this is one of those that definitely I would have left in had I had more room. So you just need to put more photographs in so that I can give you more honorables. But that's a really pretty image.
Next up is I'm Ready for Spring, Barb Lawton.
Again, this is another one. This photograph, I love the color. I actually like the name they gave to this, because it does feel like you're waiting for spring with those flowers. I think the color in this is gorgeous. I wasn't sure whether the background was canvas of some kind, whether it was actually a backdrop or whether it was a real window back there. I really like this image. It's sharp. It's well defined. There are a couple of things that I couldn't quite figure out. On the flower to the left, just above it, it looks like there's a shadow. And I think the shadow may be some kind of a bowl or something behind the flower, but it doesn't go with anything. It's just sticking there. And then the other thing, even though it's supposed to be a window, on the opposite side, on the right-hand side, the line that runs to the red flower and then goes out of the image, that was distracting as well. I would have taken that out, because the flower pot and the flowers themselves are lovely and made a very pleasing image. So unfortunately, I took that one out as well.
Next up is Victorian Bed Lamp, Barb Lawton.
Okay, this is what I would say is a close call. The lamp is lovely. It's well lit. I love the shadows on the wall. What I don't like is the left side. I'm not quite sure why you needed the bed with pillows or comforter there. That didn't seem to fit with what you were trying to show. And also above the lamp to the left, it looks like the top of a piece of the headboard, which I found very distracting. One of the things you could have done in this, I think, is maybe vignetted around the corners. You may have been able to darken those pillows and comforter on the lower left, and that would have brought out the Victorian lamp by itself. So I took that one out for that reason.
Next up is 3 a Pound, Dan Steen.
Okay, this, I don't know how to talk about this one. The good thing in this, I like the fact that one of the, I guess it's a cabbage of some kind, is above, above the board at the top. But the subject matter is not great, frankly. I like the fact that you left the $3 per pound in and you named your photograph after that. But the whole top of the image with looks like jars is distracting. On the mid left side, where you have the red cabbage, one of them has a white thing at the top, which I would have either cloned out or made red so that it wasn't distracting, but it's one of the brightest parts in the photograph. So I keep looking over there and saying, what is that? But I don't really find this particular subject to be awe-inspiring. So I took that one out.
Next up is One World Passing Another, Dan Steen.
This took me a while. When I looked at it at first glance, I wasn't sure what it was. I now see it's a horse and probably like an Amish type of carriage. I like the fact that this is a pan. The problem, what I think happened with this, I believe that one car is going in, maybe the car or truck is going in one direction, and this is the horse and buggy are going in the other direction, and so your blur is so blurry as to not really tell you what it is. I would hope if you were going in the same direction or if you were standing still, you could have panned a little more and gotten a little more detail on, particularly on the carriage and the horse. I think it's a little tight, even if the blur was not there. I would have liked to have seen either the whole horse or the whole carriage. This becomes so much of an abstract that I don't think it worked totally. I think it was a good effort, and I would keep working on doing these panning type of shots. So I took that one out.
Next up is Lock 7 Walkway, Dennis Johnson.
So this, I like this image. I even like the sun flare, and both along pretty much along the right railing. I like the way it's composed. I think when I got down to the other end of the walkway, it was difficult to see what it was, and the lock itself is not particularly visible, although you can see it on the left-hand side. So this was a nice image. It was a good try, but it just wasn't strong enough. The one thing that I don't know what it is, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, there's a black dot, and it's either, I don't know whether it was something on your sensor or something else, but that was distracting. And if you're going to keep this image, there are three things that I would take out. That black dot can be cloned out. If at the very bottom of the image on the walkway, there's a white speck. I don't know what that is, but that could be cloned out. And then if you go to the far end of the walkway and you go up that pole, there's a white speck there, and I can't quite see what it is. But those three things, if they came out, would make your image much stronger. So I took that one out.
Next up is Three Below, Jerry Runt.
This is a lovely image. Here's my comment about this. Unfortunately, sunrises and sunsets have become sort of a mature subject, if you will. Everybody takes them. The 3 or 4 people that are at a huddle in the picture are not really distinguishable enough to let you know what's actually going on. The rest of the image is quite lovely. I think I will say that the exposure on the sun is really good. Suns are extremely difficult to photograph, even as they get either low or they're coming up. They can very easily be blown out. I don't think
Gear,
this one really is.
moving around with the storms.
Yeah.
If you could,
Sorry. Was that for me?
No, somebody was unmuted.
Oh, okay. I like the fog on the water. I just think that there wasn't enough subject matter other than that fog, and there are some other images that are stronger. So this was one that was a possible honorable mention, but unfortunately I didn't have enough room, so I took this one out.
Next up is Winter Roses, Claudia Jakubowski.
Okay, Claudia, if I had to say this was a number 6 or 7 in the group, this would have been one of my honorable mentions. I think it's a really nice depiction of the roses in the snow. I particularly like the green stems that are coming in from the right-hand side, and then it follows through all the way through. The ice is definitely well exposed. This is a lovely image. I used to be proud of this one, but unfortunately, I didn't have enough room, so this one came out.
Okay, next up is Watching the Snow, Greg Effner.
I don't know whether the photographer took this from a window to outside or not. I don't think it really matters, because I think it's a lovely image. I wish the bluebird was turned around, or at least halfway, so we could see it. What we're looking at is a brown rump, and then you've got the upper whole half of the image is blank, and you've got the 3 white blotches up at the top, one on the far left, one in the middle, and one almost to the right. And they're distracting because they're the brightest part of the image. I think this is a really good image, and if you have either a setup outside of your window, or I don't know whether this is a grab shot or not, but if you had just waited, maybe the bird wouldn't have turned around, but I would have liked to seen the bird rather than just the tail feathers. So I took this one out. Very nicely done, though.
Next up is Crispin Crystals, Jana Kaywood.
Okay, Jana, I'm sorry to tell you, I have a couple of things. I love the ice flow. I think that's great. I don't know whether you got that on your trip last weekend or not, but the ice flows are great. However, the upper almost 40–60% of the image is not particularly interesting. You've got a nice almost starburst from the sun, but it's not quite there. So it's sort of half there and half not. You almost have 2 photographs. You have the ice flow, and then you have the upper part of the berm or the rock formation. I would have focused on the ice flow. Unfortunately, I don't have the annotator. Maybe I do. No, I guess I don't. I would have tightened up on the ice flow and showed more of that rather than trying to include the entire scene, because the rest of the scene is just kind of bland and there's not a lot of contrast to it. So this just didn't work. So I took this one out.
Okay, next up is the Silver Spotted Skipper, Joe Catronio.
There we go. Okay, I took this one out for 2 reasons. The background is lovely. The butterfly or moth is perfectly in focus. Unfortunately, it's in the middle of the photograph, so it's sort of kind of static for something that should be moving. And then the upper portion of the flower that the insect is on is blurred. It's not together, and it kind of goes out of the image. So it is a major part, a major element in the image because of its color, and yet it's not in focus and it runs out of the photograph. So this is a good try. That if I would have maybe tried to tighten up again on the I don't know if it's a butterfly or a moth, so forgive me. And I would have done a vignette on this as well. That would have really honed in on your subject. But one other thing is the white on the I guess it's the left. I don't know if it's a wing or what you call it, but I would have tried to tone that down a little bit without turning it gray. I mean, sometimes if you just use your burning brush in Photoshop, it can turn gray, and I'm not quite sure if that's what it looks like in in real life or not. But I would have toned it down because it does take away from the head, and I think the head of the insect is really the beautiful part. So I took this one out as well.
Okay, next up is Morning Gallop, Marguerite Hill.
This is a lovely picture. I wish I was there. I love horses and horse racing. I know this is looks like it's a workout rather than a race itself. You've got the horse has got great motion. You've got 2 of his 3 hooves in the air. The jockey is in a good position. Your photograph is a little flat color-wise, which could have used a little more contrast. But more importantly, your depth of field in this is too great. All we're seeing is the cones on the inside of the training area. I like the fact that you left the gate in on the left because that gives you a sense of place. I think maybe if you had taken the picture at the bend, which looks like it wasn't too far to the left, you might have been able to avoid some of the greenery with that depth of field, and you could have been focused more on the starting gate and the horse at the same time. Now I know, depending on where you're standing, you might not have been able to get a good angle on the horse at that point. But it's a lovely photograph. Again, you maybe could make that into some kind of a vertical or a square, take off the right side as much as you could. And then again, whenever you've got a subject like that, if you were to vignette it, that might help a little bit as well. So I took that out.
Next up is Chucky's baby sister, Linda Tomasulo.
Okay, I got to tell you, I laughed out loud when I first saw this. This is really, it's clever. First of all, Chucky is a great subject anyway. I love the fact that you took this doll and put it in a chair and put the chair at an angle so it's not straight on. I don't know what happened to this doll. I feel sorry for the child who used to own it. It's a lovely image. It's very clever. I might have left a little more space at the top where the chair almost touches, although you did a good job of keeping it out. Maybe a little further back. This is a personal thing at that point. But your lighting is good. You don't have any real highlights that are being blown out if you use the flash. It's a cute image. It just wasn't quite strong enough to stay in with some of the other images that won. So I took that out.
Next up is White Tiger, Patricia Newhart.
Okay, so I on my screen, and I looked at it on 2 different screens. The back of the tiger is, if not blown out, is real close to being blown out. Tigers are supposed to be like fierce animals, and this looks like a little puppy dog. So the expression on the tiger isn't exactly what you would think of when you see when you think about a tiger and its strength. The other things that sort of bothered me, I don't know what's going on with the grass in the front, the lower part of the image. It looks like it's either maybe was somebody trying to either darken it or something, but it's not, it doesn't look real. It looks blocked up. And then in the upper left-hand corner, you've got that one brown spot, which is, you know, distracting. You'd have been much better off had you taken that out. What I think would have made this image a little stronger is if you had not used the back end of the tiger, had you tightened it up and just did a really good portrait from the neck all the way around, I think it would have been a stronger image. So I took that one out, and it's a little flat. It's a little over cooked in terms of light, and it's flattened out a little bit. You're not seeing any of the rich color.
Okay, next up is Still Standing, Patricia Newhart.
It took me a while to figure out what we were looking at here. I wasn't sure whether there was something on the top of this particular structure or not. I guess those are like bristlecone pines down below. I'm not sure. This looks like a dancing bird whose wings got chopped up. If you look at the way the structure is, the tip of the point on the left side looks like the beak with the eyes, and then maybe something flowing behind it. But again, it's the subject matter is so-so, I guess. I think this was great to see, and I understand why you would photograph it, but I don't think it's strong enough in a competition to stay with some of the photographs that have been in this group. But it is interesting. You did a nice job of making sure you didn't leave the image. You've got space all around. It's different. It's unique, but I don't think it's, from a subject standpoint, I don't think it's strong enough to stay in the competition. So I took that out, and I think a little more contrast would have helped. A little, maybe a half stop exposure might have been a little better.
Next up is Mudlarks on River Thames. Phil Levo.
Okay, so let me say to Phil, I love this image. I mean, this, it really was one of my favorite images. I think the action of the workman in the hole, which I don't know what he's doing, but okay, pointing to the bucket, and the bucket literally showing the muck coming out of it with the pitchfork and on the bottom, you know, framing the bottom. And then you've got the shovel that is counterbalanced by, I guess it's like a concrete structure of some kind on the right-hand side. This is a really nice image. I'm a kind of a people person in photography, and I think that you captured it. I'm going to say something that I hate when judges say this, but I wish I was on the other side. I would love to see their faces. I don't think that detracted from your image. I'm not saying that, and I don't like to say that in general, but these guys, I'm not even sure what they're doing except taking the muck out of something. But it's a lovely image. Your people are centered pretty much in the middle of the picture, which I would have liked to have a little bit off center, but it's a nice image, and it would have been an honorable if I had more room.
Next up is Colossus, Phil Levo.
Okay, so as I look at this image, even now, I'm not sure what I'm looking at. I don't know if I'm looking at fabric or I'm looking at a solid structure, It doesn't matter. I'm not saying that that's, but it was a little difficult to read. I think the color is wonderful. The exposure is wonderful. The subject matter, there's not enough there to either be a true abstract or to be a subject that I can sort of live with. I think there must be some window light or something, because on the silver part hanging down, you've got that white bright area, which looks like it's natural light versus coming through a window and creating all the beautiful color spectral. But unfortunately, without being able to identify it, and it wasn't, as I say, it wasn't strong enough to be a true abstract, I just couldn't keep it in. But I think the color was great. And that's all really I have to say. I mean, what you did is lovely, but I don't know what it is you did, to be honest with you. So I took that one out.
Next is Good Dogs Get Treats, Rich Schreibstein.
Okay, this is a great street photography shot. You definitely captured the moment where the dogs, I guess it's a woman, looks like she's got her hand in her pocket, which probably means I got a treat, and they know it and they're looking at it. So I think that from a street photography standpoint, it was lovely. There are some distractors because that is your subject. The people in the background, either both the two that are coming towards us, one of which is sort of cut off by the back of the main subject, and the woman walking away, and then the post, not the black post that the dogs are tied to, but the tree, and the looks like a street lamp behind her. Those are distracting. I would have darkened down maybe the sidewalk a little bit and tried to bring out the color on the dogs and the woman in the blue coat. It's a nice shot. It's not, if this was a street photography competition, it might do better. But in a general competition where some of the other photographs have such beautiful color and subject matter, it's just not strong enough to stay in. So for that reason, I took it out.
Next up is Contactless Ordering, Rich Schreibstein.
Another one. This gentleman, I love his expression. I think, and the fact he's not looking necessarily at the photographer, although he may be. I thought that he was great, and the expression on the dog is also great. I'm not quite sure what the contactless ordering sign does for the image. I realize it's a cafe, but you can't see the word cafe. You have to just guess. The background behind the dog is distracting. Even the reflection of the gentleman in the window is somewhat distracting because it's up against your contactless ordering sign. So it's a nice shot. It's a little hot, not terribly, but it's a little hot to me. The one thing that I still can't quite figure out is the shadow on the shirt, on the sweatshirt. It looks like it's somebody with a hat on, but I can't quite figure out how. It looks like there's color in the bottom underneath the hat, and normally a reflection would just be dark. So it was a little bit distracting. The background, as I say, is distracting. I love the expression on his face. He looks like a really pleasant guy, somebody you'd like to sit down and talk to. And the dog's expression is adorable. But with the background being what it is and it being a little hot, I didn't think it was strong enough to stay in.
Next is Between Two Plates, Sharon Silversmith.
Okay, now there are two of these, both taken of exactly the same subject. One is in a little different angle. There's nothing wrong with this picture to be precise. I think here's what to say. There's the people are walking away, and then you've got some other people down the path. You've got the great rock formations, but I'm not quite sure what your subject is here. Oh, is it the people? Is it I know that the title sort of tells you it is the rocks or the place, but I just don't see that there's enough there to be exciting. And it looks like to me, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. It looks like you had a bald sky up in the upper portion and that you tried to darken it down. And when you darkened it down, you weren't able, maybe there weren't any, you weren't able to pull out any cloud formations, and it turned gray on you. It looked, because the rest of the image is not gray. If you look at, where the beautiful color is on the mountain at the back and down in the valley there, you've got sunshine. So I don't know why the sky would be so gray unless you tried to do that in Photoshop and it just didn't, or Lightroom or something, and you just didn't quite control the color. You didn't leave it, you made it gray rather than something else, maybe blue or whatever. This is one, I don't know what your rules are. I don't know whether you can change skies, whether in my camera club, everything goes, but you're responsible for photographing everything. You can't take something out of, somebody else's photograph, but I would have put a different sky in there. I don't know if I look really close, I see a little color maybe, but it's just too gray. It doesn't seem to work. So I took that one out.
Next up is Icelandic Fall, Sharon Silversmith.
Yeah, Sharon is probably in a different location. It's the exact same place. It's two photographs of pretty much of the same image. I mean, if you go back to the other one where the path turns to the left at the upper portion of this image is exactly what the other one is. There's not enough in this image to be exciting. I think being there probably was exciting. It's a grand location, but you've got this group of people on the right-hand side with somebody in a red coat, probably walking out towards the precipice. And then you've got the green at the top of the image, and they fight with each other as to what I really want to look at. There's not enough room on the right side where the people are walking. They're the same people probably that were walking in the other shot. I don't quite know how you got to both locations, to be honest with you, because but you did, and I commend you for it. Maybe it's a walkway of some kind. And then the walkways in the lower right-hand side or midway down, that highlight on the steel walkway, there are so many distracting elements that I'm not sure what it is that was the main subject here. So again, I took this one out as I did the other one.
Next up is Pressure, Thomas Whitmore.
This image, I love the tanks, but there's not one word except for Mako that you can read. I mean, you could almost read pressure on the first one. The background, I don't know what the upper right-hand side, you've got that one silver structure that's sticking out of the back of the tank. I don't know that this subject matter is strong. There may have been another place where you could have stood to get a little different view. I like the nozzles on the top of the pressure tanks. I would have liked to have seen more of those. I think that you have a little bit too much in this photograph. If you had maybe gotten a little higher and could have seen all of the valve knobs, and then focused on the curvature of the piping, you would have had a stronger image. But the background with all the pipes in the back, your depth of field is just too great, and it doesn't really work together. So I took this one out.
Okay, next up is Sunrise in Myrtle Beach, Sean Sullivan.
Okay, so this is again when I was talking about a mature subject. Obviously, I think your sunrise is lovely. The water is well composed. The people are there just watching, which I understand, but they don't really add a whole lot to the image. The birds, I would have taken them out because they're so small that you're not sure whether you're looking at a bird or you're looking at just a dot in the sky. There are some other images, and I think in some of the winners, I can sort of point out what I'm saying. It's a shame that the birds weren't closer. That might have helped. But it's a lovely image. It's got great, it's got great color and it's got great exposure. The subject matter is a little worn. Maybe it's because I live near the beach and I see this all the time, but it just was not strong enough with some of the other images of similar kind. So I took it out, unfortunately, John.
It's okay.
I know you have control, so you can cut me off at any time.
I usually insert birds, but this time they're not.
Would have been a good idea.
Next up is Goddess of Fire, Thomas Whitmore.
Okay, I love this image, and I love the formation of what I assume is what he meant by the goddess. I think that's really cool. This looks like there must have been some kind of a filter put on this. I'm not quite sure. It's really a cool image. I wish that the goddess wasn't white, even though that I would like to have seen that have more color to it. It's so overpowering and so blown out that you kind of lose something there. And your first fireman, the one closest to the camera that's in the lower right, is not as sharp as the other ones. I think it's a great photo. I think it's got a lot of potential. I would continue to work on this, maybe try and do some sharpening or clarity with that first fireman, and then I'm not quite sure what to tell you to do with the goddess, but I mean, I think it's a great capture, and I wish that it wasn't that blown out up there. It sort of loses something in its overall presentation, but it's a great capture. I really like that. I took it out anyway.
Honorable mentions. First up, Good Morning Starshine, Neil Shapiro. Okay,
Neil, this is a lovely, lovely image. The reason it's not higher than just honorable, although honorable could be number 6 out of the top 5, all of them could be. If it were me, I think I would try and crop at basically where the God rays are coming out of at the top of the image. And I think your right side of the image is, you got so much rock and so much cloud formation. While they're beautiful, they detract, I think, from the real picture, which is that lovely enclosure of clouds and rock on the lighthouse, and then the lighthouse in the water. So I just think you have a little bit too much. This is a beautiful image. The color is great. The striations in the rock, even though there's a lot of it, is wonderful. The cloud formation is wonderful. There's nothing bad to say about this, but I would have tried to crop. If you look carefully at it, you'll see where on the right-hand side, if you go from there and you start going towards the house, there's a line of demarcation where it turns lighter and where it's darker and then gets lighter. That's just about where I think I would have tried to crop it, make it more into a vertical than a horizontal. And I think you'd have a stronger image. I would suggest you just try it. If you don't like what I'm saying, put it right back the way it is, because the rock striations are wonderful in this. So congratulations, a beautiful image.
Okay, next honorable mention is Country Road in Fog, Bill Lanahan.
And again, this is a lovely image. I have nothing really bad to say about this. The fog is great. I think maybe the sun coming from behind the major tree right in the center could be darkened down a little bit, or I'm not quite sure. I'm not even sure whether that could be done, but I love the fact that you kept the tree on the left-hand side almost all the way in. The fact that you've got some of it out doesn't matter, because we can infer what the rest of the tree looks like there. I love the mailboxes. I don't know where the mailboxes are on either side. Maybe a little higher elevation, so you get more of the mailboxes, and you see more definition. But they're great, and the color is great. You don't have your road going right down the middle, which so many photographers do when they show their images. This is a lovely image, so I kept this one in for sure.
Okay, next up is Sacandaga Lake, Dennis Johnson.
Okay, so Sean, here's your birds. Okay, in this image, which is a beautifully seen. I love the treatment of blurring it. I have no problem with that. I don't know if the birds were put in there or whether you actually captured them like that, but I paid particular attention to every single bird. There's not one bird that has a wing that is either tucked down or hidden, that creates some kind of a problem. I like that if you didn't take it, the three birds on the right-hand side that are totally in sync with each other is lovely. The color in this is outstanding. The handling of the sun at sunrise or sunset is also outstanding. This is a beautiful image, and you had just enough blur to make your water smooth without making it go away. So you still got definition there. Very nice.
Okay, our next honorable mention is Tree and Rock, Kim Koza.
Okay, I hope you found this. I hope you didn't set this up, because we find in nature so many crazy things with people, with particularly, I think Jenna said she's from Arizona. She must see a lot of things, particularly in the desert, where things are growing where they shouldn't be growing, but they latch on. And this looks, I looked at this, I don't think it was set up. I do believe it was a found image. If it wasn't, don't tell me, because I think it's great. The background being white or sort of grayish, I think it's the sky, is very well done. It's not overexposed. The color in the leaves is perfect. The lighting coming pretty much from, it's not backlit, but it's almost backlit. You've got that, it looks like the light comes in from the left, and you can see on the rock where the light is. It's just a fun image, and it's clean. It's very clean, very crisp. Everything looks sharp in it. I like that image, so I kept that in.
Okay, our last honorable mention is Pier at Sunrise, Sean Sullivan.
Okay, Sean, you got your birds here, and I don't know if you put them in or not, but this
I
is
did.
okay. And I also, this has such a beautiful painterly look. I don't know whether you use a filter or some other processing, but this is just lovely. I mean, the sky and the sunrise, the water, the blues and the oranges that are complementary to each other. The angle of the pier is beautiful. The birds are great. The one thing, if it were me, is the bird at the end of the pier that you can't see except for that little black spot. I think I would have taken that one out, but I might have put one of your other ones down there. I don't know.
I missed him. I didn't even see him.
That's why I'm the judge.
There you go.
But it's a lovely image. Lovely.
Thank you. And our winners in 5th place. Great horned owl in the desert, Nancy Jones.
This is a great shot. I looked at this. I mean, this is an Audubon Society shot. You can't get a better shot of a great horned owl. I would like to have seen maybe a hair more contrast, but I mean the angle of the wings and the fact that you didn't cut it off at the bottom is wonderful. I had to think about whether or not the cactus on the lower right was a deterrent or was something that let you know that this was not in just anywhere, it was in the desert. So this is a great, great shot. If I had anything to say about it, because it's such a clean image, I would have taken out the limbs that are sort of blurred out in the background. I think I would remove all of those and just make this a totally clean image with the major wood structures intact, but the ones behind it that are blurry, they don't do anything for the image. I mean, this image is strictly the owl, and I would have taken it out, and you might even consider a little vignette on this one, not a great one, but just to hone in on that bird because it's beautiful. I love the eye is great. I mean, it's a great shot.
Okay, in 4th place, Gilded Age, #1, Linda Tomasulo.
Okay, there was a question in my mind, and I don't know whether the photographer is here and whether he's allowed to say anything to me, but
Yes.
I don't know. I looked at this picture, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. It's a fantastic image, but I can't tell whether it's a photograph of something else, whether it was staged. It's really more photo art than photography, and that's the only reason I didn't give it even 1st or 2nd place. Is I just couldn't determine how this was done. So if possible, I don't know if you can tell me now or when the competition is over, but I would really like to know about this image. It's beautiful. There's a photographer by the name of Jeff Wall. I don't know if anybody knows. He's a Canadian photographer, and he stages his images, and they almost look cinematic, like something out of a movie. And that's sort of what this looks like, only this looks even more processed in terms of whether it's a filter of some kind, but it's very artistic and it's a lovely image. But because it just didn't look like a photograph, I didn't give it a higher C, but it could easily be any one of the 10 that we're going over. It could have been 1 through 10. So it's just tomorrow, call me, I'll give you another 5 that'll be the same, be different, but the same images. Anyway, great image, whatever it is, I like it.
I can tell you, it is a photograph.
Wow. Well,
I mean, what they did was that they were shooting, HBO was converted Troy, New York into 1890s to do the Gilded Age. And that's where this was shot. And obviously I did some techniques with Topaz, but it's definitely a photograph.
Okay, well, I apologize to you. And I applaud you because I figured it had to be either a picture of something else or it had to be a set of some kind. But
Right.
this is lovely, and you should be really, really proud of this. This is great. The
Thank you.
one, if I was going to give you a one little thing, I might remove the P in the upper right-hand corner because it's sort of a little bit distracting. And if you have any more room, if you could complete the arch on the building at the upper left, that if you could leave that arch in, maybe not. I see there's that little triangle, that speck on, and which means that you probably would have been getting more of that. So, but other than that, this is lovely, and you should be applauded. It's great.
Thank you.
What can I ask you what process did you apply to it? Was it
I did in Topaz Studio. I think it was
Okay.
one of the AI remix. I'm
Great.
not sure which one.
Well, congratulations. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, our third place is the Golden Gate Bridge, Alina Kesey.
Okay, so people say, really, the Golden Gate Bridge, you know, but this is outstanding. My son lives in San Rafael, and I've taken, I don't know, 1,000 pictures of the Golden Gate Bridge with all the fog, and you could see, you know, San Francisco on the other side. First of all, this is sharp as can be. Second of all, the position that the photographer is in is outstandingly different than what you normally see. The bridge is perfect. All of the lights with all the star bursts on them is perfect. There's not one thing that I would say bad about this. I have no comment other than to tell you that your location is outstanding. Next time I go to San Rafael, I'll be looking for this place. And the time of day you took it is great, just wonderful. So congratulations.
Okay, in second place, the Montana Barn, Kim Koza.
I have judged and seen hundreds of images of, I don't know if it's this, I don't think it's this particular barn in Montana, but there are so many that you see in Wyoming and Montana. But this one, the color and the time of day, the location of the barn with the fence running in a diagonal and the tree that's framing it, it's just beautiful. It really made me sit back and say, wow, I got to go back to Montana. If I had any criticism at all, and of course that's what I get paid for, I don't know if I wouldn't try to remove the branch that comes down in the middle of the roof. It's not really a branch, more of a twig with some leaves on it. If you could get rid of that, or maybe even just take it off of the roof and leave it just at the top of it, so that it's where the one next to it on the right is. That would be my only thought process, because this is beautiful. I love this.
And our first place winner, Star Trails over Lake George, Alan Wiggins.
Okay, folks, this is absolutely awesome. Maybe you guys in New York do this all the time, but we don't get to see this down here in Washington with all the lights and everything, all the, you know, the city lights. But this Star Trail, and I'm hoping that it wasn't put in, but if it was, I don't care, because it's so perfectly placed. Even the circle at the bottom, it almost is perfectly placed there. The reflection in the water, there's nothing wrong with this photograph. It's magnificent. I don't have one thing that I would say that I would change in this. This is just absolutely outstanding. So congratulations.
Well, congratulations, everybody. Great images. Now we're going to move on to our monochrome
Hey,
category.
Alan, don't tell me you didn't put that there, right? Is Alan,
Yeah, I'm here. It's a composite of the sky, the star trails were done on one night from the same location that the lake was done on the second night. I couldn't
Wow.
do it on the one night because the lake was all fogged in, but I was able to get the star trails. So I went back the second night and I got the lake and then I put it together.
so were the star trails in the lake as well? When you took
No,
the
no,
second?
that is composited in.
That's composited in.
Yeah,
Great. Well, you did a great job. You did a beautiful job. Lovely.
thank you.
Okay. Monochrome. We have 34 entries, 5 places, 5 honorable mentions. First up, Enjoying the Fall, Sharon Silversmith.
Okay, this is a lovely image. I love this little girl. I hope it's your granddaughter or your daughter. She's just precious. Having said that, you put your subject to dead center, which I'm not a big fan of. The light is coming from the left-hand side, and you've got great light on the back of her jacket and on top of her hat. I wish that you would put some light on her face on the front side of her, even if you had to cheat a little bit, because she's so cute, and yet she's in a flat light there. I would have definitely put a vignette on this, maybe even a heavy vignette, and I would take out the white leaf behind the back of her. There are a couple of white spots there because they just detract from it. But this is a beautiful image. I love this little girl.
Next up, the USMC Memorial, Alan Wiggins.
Okay, so Alan, here's one where you got you got rooked, because I live in Washington, D.C., and I've seen thousands of these images of the Iwo Jima Memorial. Now, I don't know if this one was from D.C. or from another location, because I know there are several. I know you tried to concentrate on the hands, and you did a good job on that, but there's not quite enough of the memorial to bring itself to life. And you've got the on the lower right hand side, you've got the rifle butt, not the rifle butt, but the rifle barrel sticking on the head of the soldier, of the Marine. And on the left hand side, there's no light on the Marine, so he's in total darkness underneath his helmet. So it's a nice image, but I've seen thousands of them. So unfortunately, I've seen some really, really, really dynamic images of this memorial, and this one didn't quite stand up to those. So I took this one out.
Next up is Up and Over, Bill Lanahan.
Okay, this gave me some pause. Number one, I think this image could have been straightened. I know you took it at an angle, but if you had put it in Lightroom and just used the straightening tools that are available to you, you could have made it so that pole on the left-hand side was straight, and that would have raised your bar a little bit. That would have helped. I don't like the background. I wish that this was a much more shallow depth of field with a fast shutter speed. The fact that the tree is breaking the line of the high jump pole, and also I'm not usually don't usually have a problem with electric wires. I actually think that in many instances they're an enhancement to the photograph and give real sort of texture to it. But in this particular case, it's a distraction, because what we want is to be looking at the person coming over high jump. The other thing, when you're doing a silhouette like this, and obviously it's backlit, we don't have quite enough body movement. We do see the, laying out over the top of the bar, but we're not seeing much of his body. So I'm not sure that lightening up a little bit of the front of him so that we can barely see his hand. I see some, looks like the nails, the fingernails, you can see, but you can't see anything else. So unfortunately, this one just didn't work for me in total, although it's a great capture of the moment of action. You definitely got him at the right place, but from a photographic standpoint, maybe when he came over a little more and he started to come down, he would have had more of his body. So I took this one out.
Next up is hiking in the sand dunes, Bill Lanahan.
This is a great image, okay? And when I was in Morocco, we had sand dunes. They didn't look like this. These are really beautiful. And the blacks and whites are pretty good. I maybe would like a little more, like to see a little more texture in the sand. Here's my problem with this image. I think I'm not sure what's going on in the lower right. I don't know what that is, and it looks like the photographer tried to. I'm not sure what he did, but he blocked up and became cloudy the bottom underneath of the, if it's a rock formation or whatever it is. It just looks like that the photoshopping didn't work there. That may not be true, but that's what it looks like. I think in this instance, the texture of just above that, when you come over that first sand dune, is a distraction to the rest of your image. I think really your image is where the people are in the middle of your photograph. And then as you look at this photograph, if you look at the very top of the upper right, it looks like you've got a hiker up there, but it's a distraction because there's not enough room. And I'm not even sure that the hiker on the upper left-hand side is needed. I might have taken both of those out, and I might have made this more of a square image because your sand dune, the most impressive part are where the shadows and the dips from the center to the left are. So I think I would have cropped it tighter and made it either square or vertical, but the right-hand side just doesn't work for me. So I took that out.
Next is Trier Cathedral, Claudia Jakubowski.
The camera angle here is great. When you talk about Jesus on the cross, you really have some power there. And so the location from where you're standing is great. Unfortunately, the background, while it's impressive and there's a lot going on back there, it's so distracting that it takes away from the power of Jesus on the cross. So I would have either vignetted the top and bottom in order to hone in on the figure on the cross, and I think I might have tried to even use a shallower depth of field so that you didn't have quite so much busy work in the back. And I know that if you were standing there, you were probably awestruck because it must have been a beautiful thing to watch, to see. But when you put it in a photograph and it's two-dimensional, the background becomes too distracting to make it a super photograph. So I took this one out, but the blacks are good, the whites are good, the exposure is good. I have no problem with that. It's just the background is just too much for me.
Next up is Not Memorial, Claudia Jakubowski.
And this is a great postcard, if you will. I know it's a big building and there's not a whole lot you can do. To me, it's a little static because it's just a big building there. I like your use of the toning. I like the I don't know whether this was originally a infrared picture because I don't know how you got blossoms or whatever's on the lower bush with all the bald trees above, but it doesn't matter. It works well. I like the fact that you didn't shoot it with the front door being straight on. You have a nice angle for it. It just wasn't quite strong enough to compete with some of the other pictures. It would be a great photograph. It would be a great postcard, though. I like the image. It's just not strong enough to compete with some of the others.
Next up is REO Speedwagon 7, Dan Steen.
Another excellent photograph. I think that this photograph, the reason it came out is the upper right and the top of the image is distracting because if you look right above the number 7, there's 2 white blotches, one underneath the bar and one right at the top of the image. And then you've got all of the white on the right-hand side. And they are almost, not quite, but almost the same tonal value as the 7. It's interesting that down below the REO Speedway and the silver, you caught the silver really nicely, and you got a great sparkle down there. I would have tightened this. I would either do one of two things. I would either tighten this up and get rid of the top, or I would vignette the top a lot so that you really had to hone in on the number 7 and the REO Speedway. It's a neat image, but it's a little distracting in the background again. So I even like the angle that you took it from. You're not straight on. Maybe that would have been better, or maybe if you had moved to the right and photographed where it was maybe darker on the other side. I don't know that it was, but I do see at the upper left it gets darker. That might have helped your image, but the subject matter is great. Your processing of it is great. Just that your background is just too distracting, and I took it out for that reason.
Next up is Dahlia, Lena Kesey.
Okay, so I want everybody to imagine if you look at the center of the dahlia and you come from the center of the dahlia, go up 2 round circles, everything is sharp. And then if you go down to the lower right, everything is absolutely sharp. But from the back of the circle of the centerpiece to the top left, everything is either out of focus or overexposed, or both. I think the light is coming in from that side, and I understand that, but you had to darken down almost, if you were to make a triangle. As I say, I don't have a tool to show you, but if you make a triangle from the upper left corner to almost the center piece where the medallion, where the dahlia center is, maybe even a little further, and then you come down to the lower left side, that whole section is somewhat out of focus or overexposed. So if you had brought that down and everything was in absolute focus, you'd have a much stronger image. What you might try doing with something like this, and I don't know whether you know the technique or not, you might try to focus stack it so that everything from the lower right to the upper left is in perfect focus. That might have helped. And then darken down a little bit that upper left side. So I took it out for that reason. It's a beautiful rendition of the Dahlia.
Next up is Street Ballet, Jerry Runt.
Okay. I'm not quite sure. I mean, I know it's a ballet. I know it's somebody in a ballet pose. I'm not quite sure whether there was maybe either a street scene with another photographer off to the right. Maybe those are camera bags underneath her feet and behind her. But she's pointing out of the image, which takes your eye way just directly out. I don't think her pose is great. I'm not a ballet person, but this is not one that gives me an ooh and awe. And the rest of the image, the cars on the left-hand side and all of the background is just too much. I would have placed her maybe on the lower, her back foot on the lower left, and then you would have had something moving into the image. And I think this is one where a little less depth of field. I know you use depth of field because you can see that you've got blurry back then, but I would have maybe shot this almost at f2.8, you know, if you had a lens that was that fast, and tried to just home in on her. I'm not quite sure what the other person is doing there. She's sort of, to me, kind of in the way. I don't think she helps the image. So this just didn't stand up. It wasn't strong enough.
Next up is Winter on the Zim Smith Trail, Greg Effner.
Okay, so there were several shots of the road with trees on one or both sides. And this has some great shadows in the front of it. You're going to think I'm crazy. Greg's probably going to throw something at his screen if he's here. But you go about a third of the way into this image. On the left-hand side, there's a little white spot on that tree there, and it stops your eye. It literally stops your eye. And then you look, and then when you finally get off of that and look down the rest of the way, there's really nothing there. The shadows sort of dissipate. It's a nice image. It's well exposed. The blacks and whites are great. There are no overexposures, but it's just not as strong as a couple of the other images that are roadways. So I took this one out.
Next up, the Cheshire Cat, Lena Kesey.
Yeah, okay. It's sort of nicely lit. The subject matter doesn't do much for me. I'm assuming that it is a mushroom of some kind. I don't know whether the leaf was found or placed there, but it doesn't seem to do much for it. The lighting is great. The subject matter doesn't do a whole lot for me. And behind the Cheshire Cat sort of ridges in the front, on the right-hand side of the mushroom, I'm assuming it's a mushroom, you've got this appendage sticking out at the back of it, which really doesn't do anything for it. I mean, I would have either taken that out or cloned more of the needles over top of it so that you didn't see that. I mean, up to that point, you were okay. I think your depth of field on the left and right side of the mushroom kind of goes soft on you a little bit. So it's an interesting photograph, but it's not strong enough for this competition.
Okay, next up is The Masked Lovers, Shauna Kaywood.
Okay, so I have several things to say about this. One, even though you can see the hand, the arm, a little bit of the male dancer or male participant, it almost looks like his hand is floating. It's not quite there. You're okay, but the hand is not necessary. I would have put the hand behind her back. Her, the way she's got her arm with that nice triangle, I'm sorry, nice angle, and her hand just loosely on his shoulder works very well. But his hand does not really work well there. I think their expressions are great. There's something going on with his hair at the top. If you look at it, it's blocked up, and I can't tell whether there was an attempt to do something with it. I'm looking for the light coming from the left-hand side. It's maybe it needed more light, hair light on the right up top, but his hair gets all blocked up and it looks kind of funky. So it just did not work for me. And her hand on the lower right, not sure what she's holding on to, but it's not in a great position. I would have rather had her arm with some kind of an angle rather than straight down like that. So it just didn't hold together totally. It was a good effort, but nicely developed. Color's good. Not the color, but the black and white tonal range is good. It just isn't strong enough, and there are little flaws in it that have prevented it from being a stronger image.
Next up is icicles, lots of them.
And yes, there were. This was an almost in, Jenna. I like this. And I've looked at it. I can't quite say how I would even fix it. It doesn't quite hold together. I think the icicles, maybe in the upper portion of the center icicle, which is where most of your definition is not quite sharp enough to, and I don't mean sharp in terms of whether it's sharpness from photography standpoint, but there's not enough definition in the different icicles to make it strong. I think that your position, you probably, if this is another one of the ones you took last weekend, coming back from New Hampshire, I think standing at the bottom of it and shooting up is great. It gives real power to the image, but there isn't enough definition particularly on the left-hand side of the ice flow, and it just doesn't quite hold together. So I took this out.
Next up is power lines, Joe Cotroneo.
I love power lines, so taking this one out was not one of my favorite things to do. I don't know whether we need more in the image or less in the image. I obviously wasn't there, and so I can't see whether or not, if you look down the line, whether you would have a great leading line with diminishing poles or not. From a graphic standpoint, it's really nice. I love the extensions from the main pole coming out, and then the springs that are holding onto the wires. Everything worked well. I'm not crazy about the fact that it's dead center, although the fact that you were able to maintain the spacing on both sides and up top worked well. I don't have anything really negative to say other than I just think it needed something more, and I can't, not being there, I can't tell you what that was. So I took it out reluctantly, but I like power lines, and I shoot a lot of them.
Okay, next up is White Feather and Rocks, Kim Koza.
I don't see it yet. Oh, there we go. This just didn't work for me. I think it feels contrived. I don't know whether it was staged or not, but it feels contrived. I think the texture on, I guess it's a rock, is really neat. I like that. I like the tonality. Your feather is, I think, supposed to be a white feather, but it looks gray. So I think that needed some work. And then the location of the feather points out of the image again, so that your eye goes from the stem of the feather and takes you right out to the upper right-hand side, and whoosh, you're gone. So this was a good try. If it was staged, I would have put the feather on the other side so that you had more of an angle, and you had some room for it to breathe, so to speak. But I mean, it's interesting. I like the texture, but I don't think it was strong enough to stay in.
Next up, Mohawk River, Marguerite Hill.
I don't see it yet.
So,
There we go. So I think this is a lovely scene. And it looks like it may be a railroad crossing rather than a drive across, but I don't know for sure. But the problem is I think I have two pictures here. I have this lovely swoosh of light that is crisp, and you can see them very clearly, and it doesn't look like there's any fog on them. And then you have the bridge, which is kind of muddy in terms of its development. It either needs more contrast, or maybe dehaze in Lightroom might have helped a little bit, but it didn't really hold together. And the fact that the trees on the backside kind of interfere with the bridge, and at the tip of the bridge, right in the center, you've got a little teeny bit of the tree line that's peeking up above it. It just doesn't hold together, and I don't particularly care for. Well, I guess you can't tell for sure, but I assume it's a boat down at the far left side of the river. It's not crisp enough, except for the front. I think your lower left is wonderful. I think your treatment of the water is pretty good. I can't tell whether that's ice or whether you drag the shutter a little bit in order to get a more of a pastel feeling there. But the lower left being sharp and the rest of it being soft doesn't work for me. Plus, as I said, the tree on the left-hand side covering the bridge, and the trees interfering with the graphic nature of the bridge in the middle just don't work for me. So I took that one out.
next up is When People Actually Wrote Letters, Linda Tomasulo. It's coming.
So, Linda, this is a honorable mention. Okay, I had to take one out. This was the last picture that I took out. I really like this. I mean, there's nothing bad to say. I think you probably used maybe some topaz filters on this one as well, but it's really nicely done. I love the placement of the chairs. I like the treatment of the window. It's not blown out. You can tell that, what's back there. This was a close shot. I'm a little bit disturbed by the lower right-hand side. I don't know whether that's a railing or a bedpost or whatever. That is a little bit distracting, but overall, it's a lovely image. I think the ceiling, the triangle in the upper portion, I probably would have darkened it down a little bit, but that's a photographer's choice. It's a really nice image, and I think your title is very apt for what it is. I don't know if it was in a museum or an old, a historical house, or in your house. I don't know, but I like it. Very nice.
Next up is Little Hawk, Patricia Newhart.
This was so close. I don't know if this was at a bird refuge or not. The lighting coming from the left is lovely. The right eye is great. The fact that the bird is interacting with you is great. I wish you would have lightened up the eye on the right-hand side, or I'm sorry, the left-hand. Well, it's the bird's left and our right. I would have liked to have seen that lit as well. So I don't know whether this was like window light or whatever, or how you actually did this, but the feathers are great. The development is great. It's just that one eye that caused me to take this out. And I'm not quite sure why the tail feathers at the back are cut off, unless it's on either on a perch of some kind, or somebody's holding it and you couldn't get that in. But I would have liked to have seen a little more detail down there as well. So I took this one. Excuse me, took this out.
Next up is Stairway Over Water, Patricia Newhart.
Okay, first of all, I think this is a little overexposed. That was my first thought. I would like to see more contrast all the way around, both in the water and the rocks in the water, and also even in the wooden staircase. The next thing, though, is that I have two photographs here. I've got a great waterfall that if it were worked differently would give me some really good looks. I like the fact that it's rumbling rather than smoothed out, because it gives you a sense of power. And then you've got this great stairway that goes from the lower right all the way up through the image to the sort of a third of the way in on the right, on the upper right. And that's also a great structure. But the two of them together sort of give me two images here, and I'm not sure what the photographer wants me to look at. The wooden structure is powerful, and it demands you looking at it, but the water does too. So I go back and forth and say, well, what am I looking at? I know that in some instances, the entire image is what you're looking at, because you need both elements. But I don't think that's necessarily true here. I think that the wood probably has some really great texture in it, and a different camera angle or more attention to the wood and the structure would have been interesting, and or the water in itself would have been interesting, but not together. It just did not work for me.
Okay, next up is the Kroners, Rich Schreibstein.
Yeah, this is cute. The dogs are great. I love the dog on the right that's actually crooning, just letting it go. But the rest of the image is so busy. I think if you would crop this at the seal for the window, and just had the window in it, you would have a stronger image. The whole left side is so busy and so distracting, with the highlights in both in the glass in the front window and the back window, and then at the top of the frame. It's so distracting. And then you've got on the right-hand side at the back behind, it looks like probably coming out of the back window, you've got another hot spot. So at the very least, you need to calm those down and maybe put a vignette on this again, so that you're really focused on the dogs. The dogs are well exposed. You can see, the fur and the fine hairs in there. I'm going to guess that this was a grab shot because even the visor is down, which really doesn't help the image. So as a grab shot, it's funny and kind of cool, but as a competition image, there are too many things that are a problem. On the hood, you've got that little triangle, like multiple triangles there, with the little black spot, a little black triangle, and then the upper black triangle just behind it. It just doesn't hold together. So I took this one out.
Next up is Jägermeister shot, Rich Schreibstein.
Okay, another street photography. This picture suffers, in my mind. First, let me say this: it's really well developed. I mean, the black and whites are great. The Jägermeister tent is great. But the people, with the exception of two people, are looking in a different direction. Everybody looks angry, except for the one woman with the white cup. The guy standing next to her looks like he's going to kill you if you take another picture. And the guy behind him is saying, "What's going on?" I would tighten this image up. I think that if you want to show the street, those three people, the woman to the left, the guy looking at you who looks like he's not happy, and the one behind him who looks at you with sort of amazement, you would still keep the Jägermeister sign in. I would just stop off a lot of the right-hand side, and maybe even, it'd be hard to stop the left unless you were able to keep the lodge in, but then you'd lose the corner of the Jägermeister tent. But this is a case where it's street photography. I get that, but I don't know why everybody is not paying any attention to you, or the two people that are not happy. So this didn't work for me.
Okay, next image is ladder 3, Sean Sullivan.
This is looks like a museum piece. I'm sure it is. You've got a railing that goes in the front and then goes to the corner and then goes towards the back of, at the bottom of the lower left. You've got 3 lights up in the top left. I'm sorry, I think, let me just, the railing goes to the lower right and then back towards the lower left. You've got the 3 lights at the top, which are very distracting. And then you've got people that are half in and half out of the frame. It looks like they're trying to read what ladder 3 is. The ladder itself, I mean, the fire truck is great. I just, as Jenna read to you in the beginning, I just finished photographing all of the fire stations in the District of Columbia, and they got some wonderful architecture and some of the really old fire trucks in some of the stations, so it's pretty cool. And this one, obviously, this fire truck has been through hell, and that's clear. But the rest of the image is so distracting that you kind of lose the benefit of the fire truck. It's well developed. I mean, the blacks and whites are great. The fact that you can see the name ladder 3 is great, but the other elements that tell you what it is, particularly the people on the lower left, that's a big problem. It gives you a sense of place, but you're seeing half of one and maybe 10% of the other woman. So I took that one out.
Yeah, just so you know, it's one of the fire trucks to 9/11.
Yeah, well, I figured, but
But yeah, the next up is Wake Up Tree, Thomas Whitmore.
okay, on my screen, this has a green tint. I don't know whether, or maybe a brownish gray. I can't really tell you. this doesn't work for me. The subject matter obviously is the trees, but I don't see anything special in the tree. And in the upper right, there's a tree limb coming in from the right that is just there, doesn't do anything. I don't see anything in this image for me to look at and kind of either be mystified by or enthralled by. It just looks like a really kind of miserable day with trees that have lost their leaves, and it just didn't work for me. And sorry to say it that way, but it just didn't work. I took it out.
Next up is Foggy Remnants, Jerry Root. But
This is a great attempt. Let me say that. This was probably, if I remember correctly, maybe either the next to last or one after that I took out. I love the image. I mean, the pier, or the diminishing pier in the foreground, is really interesting with all the sticks and the reflections. I know it's in the fog, but you still need to have some crispness to it. I would like to have seen more black instead of sort of a dull, sort of dark gray. I don't like particularly I guess it's a crane or two cranes that are sticking out past the pier that's standing on the, on the land there. This was what I would say a really close call. It's a little muddy for me, even though it's supposed to be in the fog. You still need some crispness to bring your attention to either the sticks in the foreground or what's in the background. I don't know whether there was any reverse vignetting done here, or whether it looks like at the bottom. I'm not sure whether that's created by the photographer or whether it was natural fog, but the image is just not strong enough. It was close, pretty image. I don't like the flag being right at the tip of the top of the image. I would have liked to have a little more room there, or I don't know what the flag does for it. So it just didn't hold together for me as to all the elements. So I took it out.
okay, honorable mentions. First up, glassware collection, Barb Lawton.
This is a very nice rendition of the 5 glasses. I don't know if they're water goblets or whatever. I like the fact that you didn't shoot it straight on, that you've got a low angle so that you're getting all of the striations in all of the glass pieces. I think you did a nice job. I like the top. The background in the top has got some real texture and modeling to it. I'm not quite sure what happened at the bottom underneath the glasses where it's pure white. That was a detraction to me. I would have liked to have seen that to be the same texture as what was above, and it might have been a little stronger image. But overall, it's a very nice image. I like that.
Next honorable mention, Black Horse in Pasture, Dennis Johnston.
I believe that the photographer added a negative vignette to this to make this sort of swirl around. I don't know whether the horse was placed there or whether he really captured it, he or she captured that. I will say this, that regardless, the position of the horse is wonderful. The movement of the hoof in the front, or the leg and hoof in the front, and the 2 legs in the back, and the tail, the way it comes up, and the horse's stature is really lovely. I like the lighting on the fence wire. I think that was pretty cool. This would have been, I think that the vignetting, the creation of the fog on the outside of the image was a little bit overdone, and that sort of detracted a little bit for me, and that's why it was only an honorable mention.
Next up, Maddie's Eyes, Kim Koza.
God, this girl is just absolutely adorable. I mean, she's huggable. She's wonderful. The lighting is great. Her eyes are spectacular. I mean, obviously, that's what you wanted us to see. The one thing, well, not the one thing, but one of the things that sort of bothers me a little bit is the reflection of the windows in her eyes is taking away, not that it shouldn't be there, because it should, but I would like to have seen it darkened down a little bit so that you had a little more view of the left side of both of her eyes. It's great. I think for me, even though the eyes are the subject, I think that this is just a little tight. This child is so lovely that I would have either really just done the eyes, or I would like to see a little more of the child. The upper left eyebrow is so close to the top as to sort of make it a little uncomfortable. And then the little swig of hair in the lower left, while it doesn't necessarily detract, I would like to see either a little more of it, or maybe a little less. I think, I mean, the exposure is perfect. The expression on her face is adorable. So it definitely merits an honorable mention, but it's a little tight on the eyebrow on that upper left. So that's why it was an honorable.
Next up is Unlocked, Linda Tomasulo.
Okay, Linda, I think I keep beating up on you. And I don't mean to, because your work is lovely. I'm going to say two things. I love the texture. I love the wood structure and the fact that you can see all the screws. Everything is perfectly exposed. The subject is a little mature. We have seen so many locks on wooden doors. But this one, because the lock is new, that helps. I don't know if you put it on there or whether you found it, but it's a lovely image. Again, it's a little bit of a mature subject because so many people have done that, but it's really well done. And I love the wood, the small wood splats and the way they overlay each other. You did a nice job of bringing out all the texture on this, and even on the metal, not on the lock, but on the latch itself. You can even see the texture and the grit on that. So it's really a beautiful image. Very nice.
The last honorable mention is Biker Dude, Sean Sullivan.
I'm not seeing it. Here we go. Okay, I love this guy. This is a guy who, for whatever reason, really enjoys his Harley, and he's enjoying the photograph being taken. He's casual. His positioning is great. He's just having fun, and he just put a smile on my face. This would have been one of my top photographs if we had a little more room on the lower left where the bike wheel is, number one, so that it has a little room to breathe. And I think this one, again, would benefit from a shallower depth of field. The barn or building in the back and the trees in the back, while they don't necessarily distract from the image, they're not really helping it in any way. And if you had pulled back a little bit, maybe giving yourself a little more room, used a shallower depth of field, and then again vignetted him so that he is really highlighted with his with his with camping gear, and I mean the motorcycle is just beautiful, but a little more room would have made this a stronger image. But I really like this guy. I'd like to meet him and take him out for a beer. He looks like a lot of fun.
And our winners in 5th place.
Is that you, Sean?
No, that's not a picture of me. No. I was at a biker. I was at one of those road rally.
It's a great image. I like that.
5th place winner, modern day syphilis, Alan Wiggins.
This is a lovely image. This could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or it could be an honorable mention. All the ones in these top 10. As I said, I mean, tomorrow I could wake up and put them in a different place, but they are all really nice. This one I love. I think if I read this correctly, the gentleman is painting over graffiti on the wall. I happen to be I love to photograph street art. So I'm sorry he's doing that to some extent, but again, I don't know what it says. So, but the position that he's in, the way he's holding the can, and the action that you're getting with him actually doing the work on the painting, everything is sharp. It's very nicely done. It's got a great diagonal, and even the Chinese sign at the top has a diagonal coming sort of down to kind of frame him in the picture. So this is a lovely image. I really like it. There's not much bad to say about this at all.
Okay, 4th place, Shadows of New York, Neil Shapiro.
Okay, so this may be the best rendition of a black and white image in the whole group in terms of its processing. The blacks are great and deep. The grays are great. The whites are good. This really is lovely. The angle of the bridge is wonderful. I have just a couple of minor points that I would tell the photographer. One, where the two people are standing in the mid-ground, when the post that I guess it's a light post, goes up and swooshes right to the guide wires on the top of the that's distracting to me. That's number one. I don't know whether you can, I don't know how you could remove it. You probably can't. And I know it's not touching. I mean, I looked at it really, really close. I blew it up. It's not touching, but it is distracting. There's one crosshair, and I can't, unfortunately, not crosshair, brace on the bottom of the bridge. If you come forward from the main structure, there's one line that is on a diagonal upper right towards the lower left that is brighter than the rest of it. And your eye goes right to that. So I would just darken that down a little bit, or I would lighten the other ones around it to highlight the braces underneath. I think that the walkway is great. The texture in the on the walkway is wonderful. It's sharp, it's clean. This is a really very nice image. So I like that.
Okay, in 3rd place, thumbs up, Greg Effner.
This is awesome. First of all, it's hard to get a good shot of a gorilla anyway. You were lucky enough to have the light hit his eye. You got the whites of one of his eyes and almost white on the other side. The background is not distracting. It's blurred enough so it's not bothering the main subject, but you see enough of it to know that wherever it is, there is bamboo back there of some kind. And this guy he's just awesome. And the fact that you got him with his thumbs up, I don't know whether gorillas keep their thumbs up all the time or not, but it's just a lovely image. It's well developed, well seen, well captured. Subject is great. I love it.
Second place, Framing Hopewell, Neil Shapiro. I think we're gonna have to stop Neil from entering.
Did I give him a lot tonight? I don't know.
Have to handicap him.
Okay. Okay, so this image is so clear. When I said that the New York bridge was the best printed, this one is probably as good or better than that one. The sharpness of this image and the shine on the water, you just used just enough shutter speed to keep the texture but smooth it out. The fact that you can see right underneath of the arch on the outcropping rock with the trees above it, it's just really well done. It's well seen and well done. If I had any comment at all, it would probably be maybe take off an inch or two at the bottom. I don't know if you need all of that ground there, but other than that, this is just beautiful. Well done.
And in first place, Shadowed Path, Barb Lawton.
So I violated my own statement earlier, which I said I don't like, particularly when roads go right down the middle of the frame. But this picture has so much in it. I mean, unless I'm an idiot, this is probably an infrared photograph. The shadows are phenomenal. You got the right time of day. All the leading lines on the road take you back to even more beautiful trees. The sky is good. The shadows are all running perpendicular to the roadway. The fence is running parallel, but you've got not only this fence, but then you've got this great shadow of it. There's nothing wrong with this image. This is really just a lovely, lovely rendition. And if it's not infrared, it's even more spectacular. But I don't know how you would have done it otherwise. So that's it.
Well, congratulations to everybody. Great images. Congrats to our winners. And I want to thank Joel for his excellent critiques. Anybody have any questions for Joel?
Joel, I really appreciated the commentary. Excellent.
I hope you learned something. That's the only reason to do these things.
Right. No, but that's the best part.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe.
You're
Yes, thank
welcome.
Oh, I just wanted to say, yes, it was infrared.
If I can make a comment, one of my mentor photographers is an internationally known portrait photographer. His name is Clay Blackmore. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of him. Monty Zucker was his mentor, who was knighted by the Queen of England as an international portrait photographer as well. He and I, he was given the right to photograph Utah, out in Park City, Utah. There you go. I'm sorry, I had a little brain cramp. He was trying to get winter scenes for all of their rooms and all of their hallways on a Ritz-Carlton hotel, very, very fancy hotel. And he asked me if I would like to go with him and do it. I said, well, I'm not going in the winter. I can tell you that now, because I'm not a winter person. I got a son who's got a ski house there, and I don't go there except in the summer. He says, no, I'm going in the summer. And he went out And I went with him for a couple of days, but he went out and photographed all of the places around Utah in the mountains in infrared, converted everything so it looked like snow, and they were just beautiful. So, but it was all done in the summertime.
That's funny.
Cheating.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you, Joel, again, and we'll see everybody next week.
So one thing, if, yeah, Colleen, did you have something? Your mic's off. Oh, no? Okay. The one thing, my club down here, North Bethesda Camera Club, was founded about 55 years ago. It's not quite as old as yours. We have 175 members,
Wow.
and your images are almost as good as ours. No, I'm kidding. Your images are right up there with our club, and we're about the best in the area. So I congratulate all of you. Even the ones that were taken out are worthy of medals in some instances. So good luck to you all.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks a
No
lot.
problem.
See you all next week.
Thanks so much.
All right. Good luck to you all.
Bye, Joe.